Welcome to our channel, where we go beyond the public persona to uncover the deep, often painful truths behind the faces you thought you knew. If you're new here, please subscribe, give this video a like, and hit the bell so you never miss the stories that move and surprise you. If you're returning, thank you for walking this journey with us. Today, we're diving into the life of a man remembered by millions as Archie Bunker. But Carroll OConnor was more than a loudmouth in a TV chair. He was a fighter, a father, and ultimately, a man changed, and haunted, by profound love and devastating loss. Carroll OConnor was born in Manhattan on August 2, 1924. He came from a family that valued education and tradition. His early life gave no clear sign that he'd go on to be one of the most iconic faces in American television. In fact, he planned on a quiet life, following his family's footsteps toward university and professional stability, but when the world erupted into war, so did his plans. When America entered World War II, OConnor didn't hesitate. He dropped out of college and enlisted in the Merchant Marine, determined to fight for his country. His service, though not glamorous, reflected a deep sense of duty, a theme that would carry through the rest of his life. When the war ended, he returned to his studies, this time at the University of Montana. It was here, while working on the student newspaper, that his passion for expression emerged. When school authorities tried to pull an issue due to a political cartoon they deemed too controversial, Carroll OConnor didn't back down. He walked off the job in protest. He wasn't studying acting, but that kind of courage, to speak truth to power, would come to define his career. He also fell in love. During a student production of Our Town, he met Nancy Fields. The two would marry in Ireland in 1951. It was a love story that would last decades. Through soaring successes and soul-crushing tragedy, OConnor's career as an actor began slowly. He earned a master's degree, took to the stage, and found work as a character actor. By the early 1960s, he'd appeared in The Fugitive, The Outer Limits, and I Spy. Roles came, but stardom didn't. And fate, it seems, had other plans. One of the most touching moments in OConnor's early family life came while he was in Italy. He had just wrapped a small role in the epic Cleopatra with Elizabeth Taylor when he and Nancy adopted a 6-day-old baby boy. They named him Hugh, after OConnor's late brother who had died in a tragic motorcycle accident the year before. That decision, to honor the past while building the future, was quintessential Carroll OConnor. In 1968, TV producer Norman Lear called OConnor with an idea that would change his life and television history. Lear wanted to remake a British sitcom called Till Death Us Do Part. The American version would eventually be called All in the Family. It was groundbreaking, risky, and more than a little controversial. Carroll OConnor wasn't immediately sold. He agreed to fly to New York and try out for the role, but requested a return ticket. He was so sure the show would fail that he wanted a way back to Italy. But Lear saw something in OConnor that few others did, an actor capable of bringing depth, humor, and even sympathy to one of the most opinionated and bigoted characters in sitcom history. And that's how Archie Bunker was born. A character whose ignorance and stubbornness made audiences cringe, laugh, and, occasionally, reflect. Viewers today might struggle to imagine how radical All in the Family was when it aired. In the 1970s, shows didn't talk about race, gender politics, or war, at least not in primetime comedies. But Archie Bunker tackled them all. He insulted, ranted, and said what others were too afraid to admit. And OConnor, with his impeccable timing and subtle vulnerability, made him human. Viewers hated Archie, but they couldn't stop watching him. What many fans didn't know is that the real Carroll OConnor was the exact opposite of his TV persona. He was kind, progressive, and deeply thoughtful. But the power of his performance led to confusion. People thought Archie's views were his own. One viewer wrote him a scathing letter, assuming OConnor shared Archie's racism. His son Hugh intercepted the letter and, outraged, wrote back. He explained that his father respected all people. That letter, written by a 9-year-old boy, touched OConnor so deeply, he kept it in his wallet for the rest of his life. That's the kind of man Carroll OConnor was. Fierce about truth, loyal to his family, and brave enough to play a character who stood for everything he stood against, because he believed television could be more than entertainment. It could start conversations. It could provoke thought. And it could reflect the messy, uncomfortable truths of American life. But behind the scenes, OConnor's life was anything but sitcom simple. In the next part of our story, we'll explore how his rising fame came with creative battles, corporate betrayals, and a personal tragedy that no amount of success could ever make right. Stay with us, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Because this story isn't just about Carroll OConnor. It's about the strength it takes to love deeply, the pain of losing what you can't protect, and the fight to turn grief into change. When Norman Lear approached Carroll OConnor with a role based on the British sitcom Till Death Us Do Part, it wasn't the kind of gig most actors would jump at. The lead was brash, bigoted, and borderline unbearable. But O'Connor saw the potential. He knew that if done right, Archie Bunker wouldn't just be a cartoonish villain, he could be a mirror to America. And Lear knew that O'Connor could pull it off with the exact mix of edge and empathy. O'Connor didn't take the role lightly. In fact, he asked for a return ticket to Italy, just in case the show failed. That wasn't just insecurity, it was insight. He knew this show was about to challenge everything TV had been avoiding: race, gender, class, war. And he was right. All in the Family wasn't just another sitcom. It was a seismic shift in American entertainment. Once CBS gave All in the Family the green light, the stage was set for one of the most groundbreaking shows in television history. The characters were flawed but human, the writing razor-sharp, and the performances, especially O'Connor's, unforgettable. But not everyone understood that Archie was a satirical figure. O'Connor's portrayal was so convincing that many viewers believed he was Archie Bunker. Letters poured in, some praising him for saying what needed to be said, others condemning him for his apparent bigotry. In one poignant example, a fan mailed him a scathing letter criticizing his supposed beliefs. Before O'Connor even saw it, his young son Hugh got to it, and the 9-year-old fired back. Hugh explained that his dad wasn't Archie Bunker, that he loved and respected people from all backgrounds. O'Connor kept that letter in his wallet until the day he died, but the tension didn't stop there. As the show's 5th season approached, a contract dispute between O'Connor and CBS nearly ended everything. Writers were forced to draft episodes without Archie Bunker, just in case. CBS even floated the idea of killing the character off and replacing him with his friend Stretch Cunningham. James Cromwell played Cunningham, and O'Connor was well aware that Cromwell was being groomed as a backup. Once he resolved his contract, O'Connor had CBS write Cunningham off the show. It wasn't just a business move, it was personal. O'Connor knew the show couldn't survive without Archie Bunker, and he wasn't going to share the spotlight. Yet, even as he played a man stuck in the past, O'Connor himself kept evolving. He pushed for deeper storylines, more nuance, and stronger commentary. And when All in the Family finally ended in 1979, he wasn't ready to let go. That's when Archie Bunker's Place was born. The spin-off was set in a neighborhood bar and showed Archie without Gloria and Mike. Gene Stapleton's Edith was still around, but not for long. O'Connor, now a producer, believed her character had grown stale. He made the hard call to write her out. It was a bold and controversial decision, one that reflected his ruthlessness when it came to storytelling, but also his deep respect for narrative truth. What O'Connor couldn't have known at the time was that he'd just begun the second act of his career, and that his personal life was about to take a heartbreaking turn. After All in the Family ended and Archie Bunker's Place took its place, the public expected more sitcom hijinks. But this new series showed a softer, more weathered Archie. Gene Stapleton's departure meant that Edith was written out, and Archie was now a widower. O'Connor wanted to evolve the character, to show the quiet grief of a man who had lost the love of his life. In truth, the grief wasn't just acting. Carroll OConnor was carrying burdens most couldn't imagine. Behind the laughter of the studio audience, he was witnessing his own son, Hugh, spiral into addiction. Hugh had survived Hodgkin's lymphoma at just 16, but in the process, he'd become dependent on pain medications. That dependency never truly let go. Despite his own career successes, O'Connor's greatest role was that of a father trying to save his son. He gave Hugh acting jobs, first in Archie Bunker's Place, then in the Heat of the Night, another hit show where O'Connor portrayed a Southern police chief. But acting gigs weren't enough to fight what Hugh was going through. Addiction doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care if you're the son of a TV legend or the child of a working-class family. And for Carroll, watching his son's decline was agony. Hugh got married, had a child, tried to move forward, but the addiction kept pulling him back. Then came the day no parent should ever have to face. On March 28, 1995, Carroll was on the phone with his son. Hugh sounded distressed. He told his father he was thinking of ending his life. Carroll pleaded with him to stay put, told him he'd come right over. But Hugh's final words weren't a cry for help. They were a farewell. "No, Pops. Gotta go. So long." The court sided with O'Connor, but Carroll wasn't done. Fueled by grief and purpose, he pushed for legislative change. He urged the California government to allow families to sue drug dealers for damages, to hold them accountable not just criminally, but financially. And he succeeded. Today, 17 states have adopted variations of what's now called the Drug Dealer Liability Act. Thanks to his tireless advocacy, Carroll OConnor took the most unbearable pain a parent can feel and turned it into action. Into reform. Into hope, and yet, even while fighting this battle, he never stopped working. He continued on in the heat of the night, delivering powerful performances while carrying unimaginable sorrow. In 2001, Carroll OConnor passed away from a heart attack. He was 76. At his funeral, stars from across the entertainment world came to pay tribute. Martin Sheen delivered the eulogy. TV Land cleared its schedule for a week-long marathon of All in the Family. America mourned not just a great actor, but a man who refused to be defined by a single role. Carroll OConnor taught us that what we see on television is never the whole story. He showed us that strength isn't about avoiding pain, it's about what you do with it. Behind Archie Bunker's insults was a man of deep principle, boundless compassion, and relentless courage. If this story moved you, if you've ever loved someone struggling with addiction, or if you simply believe in justice, then share this video. Subscribe for more untold stories. And let's honor those who choose to turn their suffering into service, because Carroll OConnor didn't just act. He made a difference. We'll see you in the next video.